Doing what you want, when you want, with whom you want, because you want.
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach Podcast.
Minisode.
Welcome one, welcome all to this minisode. And that's right, folks. We are finally through the last 17 weeks. Right, 17 weeks. We've got one more to follow because we had an introduction. There are 16 principles of prosperity. We're going to end with one of my favorites today. Principle. And by the way, I should pause here and remind you that these are not in order of importance necessarily. Okay, you can mix and change these things. They are interchangeable. They are things that you can expand and diminish, and you can combine with others. Remember, when I first started the Principles of Prosperity, there were 12 of them. Now there are 16 because I felt like there was a couple that should be split out and kind of have their own principles, if you will. But I have to say, number 16 is a pretty cool principle. I'm going to get to it in just a second. I want to pause here and remind you that we're sponsored by ANOW Software. ANOW, of course, is the software that I am using each and every day. It's the software that you should be using as well to manage and better make your life easier when it comes to appraisals. It's anow.com, ANOW.com. All right, folks, number 16, here we go. The last principle of prosperity is this: freedom and liberty fertilize creativity. Freedom and liberty fertilize creativity. Now, I think it was in the introduction, it could be in one of the others, but I do remember talking recently with you about my definition of wealth, my definition of success. My definition is not being super rich and having a sports car. My definition of wealth is much bigger and grander, and I think more inclusive than that. My definition of wealth is simply this: doing what I want, when I want, with whom I want, because I want. Let me repeat that, especially if you have that on double speed. Doing what you want, when you want, with whom you want, because you want. That, to me, is the definition of freedom and liberty and wealth, right? Think about this for a second. Doing what you want. Can you do what you want today? If you woke up tomorrow and said, you know what, I don't want to go to work, I want to do something else, could you do that? Could you do it tomorrow, or would you have to do it in 3 months after you planned ahead? What about doing it with whom you want? Are there some struggles, some strained relationships there that you need to maybe work on? And why? Because you want to. Is your health in such a way that you could do whatever you want right now? Now, within reason, right? I'm not going to dunk a basketball tomorrow. I'm too old and fat for that. But the bottom line is, my definition of wealth is to do what I want, when I want, with whom I want, because I want. Now, this goes to the principle of prosperity, number 16, and to me, one of the most important, because that really is my ultimate vision. That really is what I'm going to be going after constantly, is to do what I want, when I want, with whom I want, because I want. That's my goal in life, right? That's my goal. So number 16 is all about freedom and liberty, but freedom and liberty fertilize creativity. What does that mean, Dustin? Well, in my mind, being an entrepreneur is more than just success, right? It's more than just choosing your career. It's about having the freedom and the ability to be able to truly utilize your creative bug and then put those things into action. Okay? I want to be very specific about what that means, but I want to pause here and remind you about another thing that will cause you freedom in life, and that is, I'm serious about this, folks. You've heard me talk about ANOW Software over and over, and we've talked about it in each and every one of the principles of prosperity, and you're going to think, boy, Dustin, you sound like a broken record. Folks, I should sound like a broken record. Remember, number 15 last week was replication increases productivity. Folks, when you are doing the same thing over and over and over again, there must be something to it. And ANOW Software, there's something to it. The ability to be able to save and to survive and to be successful and to be able to accomplish what you need to accomplish because technology makes it easier for you, that's all that ANOW does for you. If you want to save 30% for the next 3 months, use the coupon code podcast30. Let me spell it for you. BODCSAT30. No space, no underscore, no capitals, podcast30. It's anow.com. And welcome back to the program, everybody. Dustin Harris hanging out in the podcast chair. Can you believe we are through the 16 principles of prosperity? We're on to the last and one of my favorite principles of prosperity. It is number 16. It is freedom and liberty fertilize creativity. Let's first define what freedom is. Folks, freedom is not necessarily being able to do what you want all the time, right? I mean, let's face it. Maybe I want to drive to St. George, Utah. It's about a 9-hour drive, okay? Freedom doesn't mean that I can do that without stopping for a potty break, okay? Life is what it is, right? We have to deal with what we need to deal with. Freedom is not the ability to say, I am never going to sleep again ever because it's a big waste of time and I could get so much done in the middle of the night. I'm never going to lay down on my bed again. That's not freedom. Okay, that's a complete misunderstanding of what freedom and liberty are. Freedom and liberty on a much more understandable scale is to say this, right? If there is something that I want to have the freedom to pursue it. That doesn't mean I'm not going to fail. That doesn't mean I'm not going to have challenges. That doesn't mean I'm not going to have some difficulties along the way. I will. But to not even have the freedom, not even have the ability to pursue those things, folks, that's why we live in the greatest country in the world, right? The freedom and liberty, and I know we can go off for a tangent on all the freedoms and liberties that we have been denied over the last few decades and the way in which government is encroaching upon our lives more and more and more. But the bottom line is we still enjoy one of the highest forms of freedom anywhere. And this ability to be an entrepreneur, this ability to be what we want. Folks, think about what you do for a living. You're an appraiser. Why? Because you chose to be so. And Dustin, come on, Dustin. I know what you're saying, folks. You're saying, Dustin, listen, I didn't choose it. I fell into it. I can't do anything. I hate it. I want to do okay, fine, right? The bottom line is you do have a choice. You do. You have the freedom to do whatever you want to do. Freedom and liberty. Now, what does this principle mean to me? When I am free, when I have freedom to be able to chill out and relax, that is when I am most creative, and that's when things happen. You've heard me talk on this program about on it, not in it time. ONI. Right? On it, not in it time. That's the time that I stop doing appraisals, that I stop doing inspections, that I stop being a business manager for a minute, and I turn off my social media, and I turn off my phone, and I turn off my internet, and I just sit with a blank screen in front of me, and I start to be creative. Folks, that's when things happen. Freedom and liberty fertilize creativity. Last year, my family and I went to, in fact, I'm looking at it on my screen right now. It's my screensaver. It's a picture of my entire family, extended family, at Glacier National Park. I mean, you literally look at this picture and you're like, come on, that is Photoshop. Folks, it's not. This is one of the most gorgeous places on earth. And I had about a week and a half to be completely divorced from the office. And guess what? I came up with all kinds of successful ideas because I had nothing else to think about. That's this principle at work. And that's how we're going to wrap up this series. The Principles of Prosperity, 16 Principles of Prosperity. And principle number 16, freedom and liberty fertilize creativity. When we meet next week, we're going to wrap this up with a conclusion. Thank you for joining me, folks. If you are not currently a member of my All-Star team, highly recommend that you join, that you consider joining this investment. It truly is an investment. $49 a month, folks. I can't even, well, I'm going to tell you a few things, right? Access to a private Facebook page, private, this is not public, this is just members of the All-Star team have an opportunity to interact with one another. Every month we meet together for a live interactive meeting where we talk about some of these principles and how to implement them specifically into your appraisal office. Right? Access to all kinds of discounts on other things. You get the newsletter every single month, which is extensive, by the way. It is huge, like 4,000 words, chock full of great information on how you can be more successful, both in the digital and the audio version. I could go on and on and on. Folks, it's $49 a month. It is a drop in the bucket. I promise you, here's my guarantee. By joining the All-Star team, you will be successful enough that your membership will be paid for and then some. I am absolutely 100% positive. I stand behind it with a 100% guarantee. Check us out, the All-Star team. You can find us at memberships at theappraisercoach.com.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit theappraisercoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.
If you want to try it for 3 months at 30% off, use the podcast code, use the code, one more time.